Sean Hammond with PremierGuitar.com. We're at Summer NAMM 2012 in Nashville at the Zuercher Amplification booth. And we're hearing Chris Bazzelli here. And Ken, you're the designer of these amps. Tell us, this is your first NAMM show. Tell us about what we're seeing here.
Okay, well, you're seeing 3 models of handmade amps. Chris is playing through my 45-watt model, uses 2 6L6s, has a Weber speaker. It's hand-tuned to my favorite sound, and apparently it's other people's favorite sound because they are getting good response, and I'm selling them locally. And so I thought it's time to spread out a little bit and try to get more regional or national with this. The amplifier has made out of solid pine cabinet covered with Tolex. We make them entirely in my home and shop, and the chassis is powder coated. It has a 3-band EQ like most amps. That has been changed. They're a little, so they're not the standard frequencies and amounts. They a little wider range on the adjustment. If you turn it up or down all the way, you get quite a different change of sound. So there's much room for adjustment. It's not just a jazz amp. It's an excellent jazz amp. I use it on blues gigs all the time. Each amp is tested by me. I take it out on a gig to make sure that it's going to be good and reliable, and it goes from there into someone else's hands.
Cool. Now you have a couple different models, right? The one we're looking at here, the ZR45S that Chris is playing through, is 45 watts and driven by 6L6s, right?
Correct. And there's 2 12AX7s driving it. It is the simplest, straightest path for good tone that I could possibly come up with. There's plenty of gain in 2 tubes, and it gets plenty loud. I've had people tell me I play too loud sometimes, so there's plenty of that there. I have 3 models. This is a larger model. It has 4 6V6s to give the same output volume, and it's a little larger cabinet for a little larger sound. And up here is the one that I actually use, which is just a 25-watt model, same size as the 45-watt model, small cabinet I call it. Has 2 6V6s in it. It has essentially the same circuit, mainly different power level. And it's also very light. You can carry the thing in very quickly. A one-handed gig, amp in one hand, a guitar in the other, and you're in.
Should we hear, well actually before we hear Chris play a little bit more, why don't you tell us a little bit more about your background? It's pretty interesting.
Oh, okay. I started out as a musician, and and when I was in school, I decided I wanted to make my own amplifier because I couldn't afford one. So I built one, and it took quite a while before it caught fire, which was very nice. But eventually, I started buying the commercial ones, that Fender made and whatever, wonderful amps in the '60s, and eventually became a music student. So I stepped over the other side of the fence as a musician again. Worked for DeArmond back in the late '70s, the pickup people, and in the early '80s, I left the company, became a broadcast engineer. So I repaired and installed broadcast radio transmitters for about 15, 20 years. Recently became a music teacher at an art school in Toledo, Ohio, which is where we live. And while I was doing that, my son, who's also a musician, decided, he says, Dad, you need to build me an amp. I go, yeah, right, I can build you an amp. He says, no, I'm serious, build me an amp. So we did. And I sent it to him. He was in New York at the time. All his friends loved it. So we continued to make amps for friends and whatever. Now, just recently decided to incorporate the company and try to do this on a more organized and larger scale.
Very cool. All right, Chris, should we hear a few different things out of this amp? Very nice, Chris. Now I think Ken wants to have another guitar plugged in so we can get a feel for the other types of tones that you can get out of this amp, right? Because it's like you were saying before, it's not just a jazz amp. It sounds great like that, but We were hearing it yesterday, and it's very versatile. All right, Ken, so now you've got a hollow body Gibson plugged in here. Is this a 335?
Yep, it's an older 335. I've been playing this since the 70s, and this thing covers all more different sounds for, if you want, it's you got a solid block in the middle, so you can get a little heavier. You can mix the pickups and get. You can get a little funkier sound if you want. You can also do the usual master volume gain business, and I'll show you how that works.
Okay, Ken, so now you've turned up the gain or the master volume on it, and it's a totally different beast right now. Let's hear that.
Yep, okay, well, you can... plenty of overdrive distortion. It's got a nice... Got a nice overdrive sound that you can get for blues. I use it for blues gigs most of the time, and people seem to like it for that. It's good with Fender guitars, which I have in the other room, but nice big warm tone.
Nice. How much is this going for?
Well, this model is between $2,000 and $2,400.
And these are all custom order?
Yes, custom ordered. Call me at redguitaramps.com. You can find me there. The parts are all handmade, and the chassis and everything were all done by my wife and I in my home with the help from my son. And if you want one, we'll make it for you.
Awesome. Thanks, Ken. Good luck.
Thank you.
So go to redguitaramps.com. I'm Sean Hammond. Thanks for watching premierguitar.com.